All right. Good evening, everyone, and welcome to the Board of Adjustment for the City of Bettendorf. Meeting for today, which is May 11th, 2023. Roll call, please.
Gallagher,
Yes.
Spranger,
Yes.
Tansy,
Here.
Tombergs,
Here.
Vermillion.
Here.
Looks like we have a full house tonight. That's nice to see everybody here. The Board of Adjustment is a five-member board. Yeah, they're all here today. Five-member board that is appointed by the Bettendorf City Council. We review items that come before us properly, such as variances and zoning adjustments. We review the applications and the staff reports in advance. Hope to be able to vote on each individual application at this meeting after we hear the staff report and the comments from the people in the audience. With that, the first other item on the agenda is the approval of the minutes of our last meeting, which was March 9th, 2023. We've all received those in paper form or on the internet. Does anybody have any additions or corrections to the minutes?
No.
If not, I'd entertain a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll make a motion.
Okay, we got a motion and a second, if that's okay. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Okay, that's approved. The next item on the agenda is the public hearings for tonight, and the first is case 23032. It's at 1705 Oak Street, which is an R2 zone. It's a special use permit to allow an electric programmable sign in an R2 district, and it's submitted by Steve Miller. Greg, you want to give us a staff report?
Mr. Chairman, the petitioners are seeking a special use permit to add a message center to the institutional bulletin sign that they already have. Location is 1705 Oak Street. You have 18th here and you have Oak Street here. The zoning is R2 throughout this entire area. And governing this, you have a table 11-14-5B, also table 11.14.7, and then the ordinance itself, 11.14.6, all feed into the requirements for the sign for this zoning district and the need for the special use. The area is likely not to change. This is going to be a R2 zoned area. It's common for churches to be alongside of minor arterials, collector streets, and arterials. And in this case, 18th Street is a minor collector, that is. The site, as you can see, here we have 18th Street. Here's the sign located, the proper distance from the 18th Street area from the right-of-way. And this is the view looking toward the north. Here's where the sign is, and on top is what will be added. And this will give you the dimensioning of what is on the signage. Again, this is a 9-step test, and I don't exactly want to be reading everything here, but I'll leave it on the screen for the public to look at if they're watching remotely, and also for the folks here for a bit. But each of the 9 steps has basically been met. The sign is permitted within this district under 11.14.7. That it will operate only between 7 a.m. and 10 p.m. is another factor. And that the placement is along a minor arterial, as I indicated, and that there's restrictions placed on the hours of illumination, as earlier stated. The sign is also meeting all the other code requirements. We go to the 5th step. The parking will not be impeded by the sign's location. And the sign itself in its operation, since it's required to keep the lighting on site, will not have a diminishing impact on property values. It's 80 feet removed from the east boundary, or I should say to the eastmost property, 63 feet removed from the southmost property. And that, given that is as close as any residential is. There had been no prior application either for a special use permit within the last year for this sign. And then looking at this, The application meets the goal of the comprehensive plan, which is to promote recreational and cultural activity, which the church does. And staff in reviewing this particular application would recommend approval of the special use permit. I would ask, are there any questions?
Any questions from the board for the staff?
No.
No.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of this application? Yes, sir. Would you mind going over to the lectern and tell us who you are and then provide us the information you have?
Good afternoon. This is Steve Miller. I'm representing St. James Lutheran Church. Greg's covered everything quite well. The sign that we have there now has been there. I've been a member 38 years there, and that sign was there when we moved to Bettendorf 38 years ago. It's a very simple little addition to the sign. It's not going to be nearly as big as Asbury or Hope. Just be a two-line sign, and we'll follow all the guidelines that are set out. Be very simple, and Acme Sign will do the install for us, and I know they'll follow the guidelines to the T. So we would hope that we could go ahead and move forward to do this, and we can kind of keep up with the schools and churches, as most of them are doing that now. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of it? Anybody wish to speak opposed? I don't see either one. What's the pleasure of the board?
I'll make a motion to approve case 23-032.
I'll second.
Okay, any discussion on the motion? Roll call vote?
Gallagher?
Yes.
Spranger?
Yes.
Tansy?
Yes.
Tomberg?
Yes.
Vermillion?
Yes.
Okay, then that's approved. The second item is case 23-033. It's 2207 Falcon Avenue. It's a C2 zone. It's a special use permit to allow an outdoor service area with alcohol submitted by Rigoberta Herrera. I apologize. Anyway, that's the application. Staff report, please.
Mr. Chairman, this is a location at 2207 Falcon Avenue. It's a heavily commercialized area. This is it essentially, this lot right here. The applicant is representing California Burrito, and he's requesting in this spot here about 192 square feet of outdoor service area for alcoholic beverage service. The proposed special use is permitted, it's required to have a permit in the C2 district. Surrounding area is either R2 or it's C1 as here, and then C2 throughout most of this area, but R2 through this area. The land use is community commercial, and then urban low intensity surrounding to the south and to the west. And the layout for this was the original plan. This since has been added as a kitchen here, this portion. This is the floor plan that was submitted for the original build out about 5 years ago. This is the sketch plan submitted by the petitioner, and this is essentially the service area right in here. And that's what's calculated as part of this. When this is anticipated as an office space, this entire area was added in as considered as part of the parking. So when we look at the parking in this regard, we're looking at a diminished, or I should say only a 2 space increase in what would be required. The other thing to remember too is this was platted in 1993, and this area at one time was even larger for commercial. It was zone C2, and the area below it was a part of that, and eventually the area became C5, and then eventually it became R2. So the residential kept getting closer and closer and pushing up toward this C2 area. The area outlined here shows a 25-foot buffer that's been required as part of this plat for Hunter Meadows Commercial Park. It's been in that place since 1993. And this will give you an idea of the location as you enter. It's over here in the west side, And this front area here is essentially the outdoor service area, the front of the building right here. We go again through the special use permit 9-step test, and we look again at the ordinance 1145, which calls it out as a special use. That also we have other requirements within the city that have to be met, and that this area here is highly commercialized along 53rd Avenue, and it's becoming more so even from the Davenport side of the boundary. So it's not like this is an unexpected use. The location is defined by adjacent structures and marginal impact, considering that you've got the buffering there. You've already got an outdoor service area within this same building complex that was granted a special use permit in 2014. And essentially, the buffering was established already. It does meet the requirements separating the residential from the commercial. The application meets with the following goal of the comprehensive plan, and that is to attract and retain business and industry. Staff, in reviewing this special use permit request, would recommend approval. I would ask, are there any questions?
Again, any questions from the board?
No.
Anyone in the audience wish to speak in favor of, speak is the word, speak in favor of this application? Don't see anybody. How about anybody opposed? Yes, sir, or ma'am, whichever one wants to get up and speak first.
I'm Dave Burns. I live at 5177 Dove Court. And, I've missed this place. It's been 11 years since 2012, when this all began. And back then, I got into the weeds of the code quite a bit. Didn't help me sleep at night. And I found out that code is like our Constitution. Everybody can interpret it a different way. So I'm not going to get in the weeds of code tonight. Don't worry about that. It's been a tough week. But I do want to, just for a second, have a conversation, which we don't have a lot of anymore, in common sense, about what it's really like, because that's a 2D picture. And I think if you were to come out there, my wife and I, actually, we just did this with the county, and they think it's a good idea because the tax assessments that just came out, and they want you to look at properties that are like yours and see what the appraisals went up or down, and there were none to pick because there's nowhere else that has R2 that shares the property line with C2. Now, a couple of years, 11 years ago, Bill Connors tried to tell me that there is one. There's a house behind the BK up there. When I pointed out to him that that house was on land zoned A2 or A1. So anyhow, if you be kind enough just to close your eyes or think about this, and you're welcome to come out on a Friday night between 5 and 9. Julie will cook something up. I'll make drinks. And you can sit in my deck. My deck is 60 feet from that building, 60 feet, to help you put that in perspective. That's the pitcher's mound to home plate. That's, if you guys bowl, that's the length of the lane. It's pretty close, real close. And you can screen visually, but come out and listen to the smells from the restaurants out there. Some nights it's pretty good. I almost feel like going and getting something to eat. But there's smells, and you can't see that on a picture. There's also the sounds. People in the other places sit outside and have a drink, and sometime when you have a drink, you get a little loud, or it carries over to the parking lot. Or you can go to McDonald's and listen to the squawk box, wanting to know if you supersize your order. And then there's Quick Start when somebody decides to wash their car at 2 a.m. in the morning, that blow dryer can really make a lot of noise. And then, like Greg mentioned, we're having those apartments and townhomes being built on the Davenport side. And why that's important is we do have a problem, and we've had a problem in the past with trespass, people wanting to take the shortcut, not walk all the way around to get a Big Mac or something. So they scale a fence in your yard, and they do that. So there's a security concern. Matter of fact, one of the councilmen back in 2012 was a former policeman, Greg Adamson, I think. He pointed out to me that, you know, there's evidence out there to show the closer you are to commercial, more likely or higher percentage of crime. So there's a security and a safety factor involved, as well as the smell, the sound, things like that that you don't see in a picture. So I ask you, when you look at pictures, you know, if I bring in pictures of Hawaii and a travel book, do you think you'd really experience, you know, immerse yourself in what the island is like? You know, I think you got to hear, you got to bring all your senses into play, not just the sight. So anyhow, that's where we go at night to have a drink at the end of the day, talk about things. And the neighbors, I'm not gonna lie about it, they've been pretty dang good. The guy who put the fence up did a dang good job. And well, another thing my wife does 2 or 3 times a week, she goes out for litter. And I know we got this whole Green New Deal thing going on and taking care of our planet and stuff, but things get blown into our yard. So these are some things you can't quantify. They're intangibles. There is one part of the code, though, I did want to talk about, and I'm not going to nitpick every step, but on the 9-step process, I looked at step 6, where the proposed use will not cause substantial loss to the value of the properties in the neighborhood. And Greg, God, I've been around him for a while now at these other meetings and stuff, and I got a lot of respect for him. He's always pleasant and puts up with me. But I disagree on, I guess I ask, what is substantial? You know, it might be, that's a subjective term again. You know, it might be 5% to somebody, 10% to somebody else. And when you're talking homes out there, you could be talking tens of thousands of dollars. So I got a question about that. And, you know, I wonder again on another subjective word is heavy landscaping. Well, the landscaping isn't as heavy as you think, and it doesn't buffer all those sounds and smells. Might help with screening the view, but you can still smell the food, hear the sound, stuff like that. When somebody puts a band out there, it's kind of nice. So we haven't really had a problem, don't complain, but this is going to be 60 feet. And I'm at a point in my life where I kind of like to sit on the deck and have a drink at night. And, you know, I think it's really important, again, to point out how this all came to be. In 1992, that was C5. And Doyle McCulley, who I never met, I relocated here, they moved me down here in 1994. But he couldn't afford to build commercial out there, I guess. That's what I was told, so he got it rezoned. But what they did was they rezoned one half of it to R2, so he could build homes, and left the other half alone. The C5 went away. You know, transition zone is there for a reason, whether it's C5, R4, whatever. It's there for a reason. And I don't know of a realtor, I haven't talked to one, that would tell me my property value goes up when there's a McDonald's in my backyard and across from it a bar, 60 feet away, sharing the same property line, not near to, So I'd like to know what data was used to say there wouldn't be substantial loss, because I've got research from all kinds of places. The best one is from Texas A&M that did a study on the spillover effect in property loss when commercial and residential are near. Now, in that study, they're talking blocks. They're not talking you're sharing a line. So, and I guess the county agrees with me, because when I just made a phone call, they said, geez, you're right, there's not another home. There's not a comparable home, because they wanted 5 homes so they could study whether their assessment, and their assessment this year is based on the value of your home. And they didn't come out and look, they just took a 20% across the board. Some went up more, some went up less, but 20% on an average, because it was based on the value, the market value of your home. So, you know, I'm just asking that maybe the property owners who paid their taxes for 20-some years and have their kids out there, that maybe it's time for some special consideration instead of special use permits.
Now, you do know that the application here is for 3 tables in
Yeah.
front of the building.
Yeah.
Okay, and it isn't gonna change the building, it isn't gonna change the
that's
smells, it isn't
There'll
gonna
be
change.
people outside more,
Okay.
sitting down, having
Okay.
a drink and taking their meals out there. I understand that.
Yeah,
I have a question, Greg, is there, is there like I'm sure there's a time, like for 5 cities. Like how late is their patio? How late can that be open? Because it's in the same building.
I don't remember the actual conditions attached to that, but we have seen before staff and this body have recommended certain closing hours for when people can be out there, and, you know, it's up to your discretion. I don't, I mean, it
They're
again,
currently open
case by
till 9
case.
PM. California Burrito is currently open till 9 PM. in
Okay,
Bettendorf.
so California Burrito is open till 9.
Yeah,
How late is like 5 cities? Oh, I'm sure 5 cities is open later than 9.
probably later than that. I can look that up.
Is their patio open later than that?
I would assume so. I can check.
I have no idea.
Even the other one, the next to 5 cities.
Central Standard?
Central
Do
Standard,
they have an outdoor?
Oh, yeah, they have a sizable one.
yeah,
So they all do.
yeah.
Again, according to Google, so 5 Cities Brewing is open in Bettendorf till 10 PM
Okay.
Okay,
on Thursday. Now, they may have different weekend hours. Looks like they're open till 11 on the weekend. Sorry, I have to take the glasses off to see my screen and put them on to see you. So 11 PM on the weekends, 10 PM on the weekdays.
But their patios are not within 60 feet of somebody's deck. And we don't want to wait till 10 o'clock at night to go out and have some peace and quiet.
They're all, sorry.
This is my wife.
All of their decks are on the front of their buildings. None of them are along the residential area. Now, because because our lot is pie-shaped, and we are on the end, and they are on the end, their outside stuff would be right behind our backyard. None of the other patios are in anybody's backyard.
Yeah. And the other patios would be on, what's the street? No, where, you know, the other street that backs onto that.
Ma'am, would you?
Lindenwood.
Lindenwood, right, but
Okay, why
So,
don't you finish what you have to say, and then we'll allow the other person to speak, and
well,
identify who she is.
yeah, well, I would hope that before someone says that it wouldn't cause substantial loss, that you've got some kind of report, whether based on sales and what they were and what they've been compared to other properties, or, you know, there's something other than just saying the words substantial loss. But
Appreciate
the
it.
other thing I would say too is, when I tried to point out the smell and the sound and stuff is, you know, we all value our quality of life. So there's that issue. I don't know how you put a price tag on that, but I know Greg has a sister-in-law who sells homes. She told me, that location, right? And when somebody comes and looks and sees what's behind you. Now, I made my big fight 11 years ago or whatever, and things were changed. And it's turned out not too bad, and the neighbors have been pretty good, but this is just, it's a pitcher's mound away from home plate. So anyhow, I hope you please consider this and either want to table, you can table this, right, until you maybe get some data on what the loss might be, or personally, I wish it'd be turned down. Thank you for your time.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Ma'am, would you like to say something? Go ahead. Please state your name.
Julie Burnchin. So
Julie.
I live at 5177 Dove Court, the property right behind the burritos. So I guess the only other items to add were, so we get the dumpsters, we get the deliveries, and it's amazing how well sound travels. I mean, when Bettendorf High School has their games, we can hear them at our house. So having them in my backyard and now being able to sit outside just increases, I guess, our, that they're there. So, and yeah, hasn't our property value suffered enough? Do we need to pile on with this additional? So I guess I just ask that you would consider that. I mean, I can already hear conversations. I know when the people are ordering at McDonald's, welcome back for every order. So, I guess I just thought enough was enough. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Appreciate it. Anyone else wish to speak opposed to this application? I don't see anybody else. Do any questions from the board?
No.
No.
What's your pleasure then, I guess? Anybody want to make a motion one way or the other?
Well, I'll make the motion to approve case 23-033. It's contiguous with the whole environment in that area. And I get it's at the end unit, but this has been commercial for a long time. So I'll make the motion.
I'll second it.
I have a second, motion and a second. Any further discussion? Any questions for staff? Oh, okay, roll call vote then.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Spranger?
Yes?
Tansy?
Yes.
Tom Burks?
No.
Vermillion?
Yes.
Okay, that variance is passed. The next item is case 23035. It's Lot 1, Cedar Ridge Estates, 3rd edition. It's an R2. A variance to reduce the required side yard setback from 21 feet to 5 feet.
7.
It says 5 in here.
Yeah, 7.5 is what it.
7.5 is my recollection, but it says 5.
Yeah.
Sorry about that.
It should be 7.5?
Be 7.5.
Okay, 7.5 submitted by Axiom Consultants and Brian Bulk. Staff report.
Mr. Chairman, this is part of a development. If you come down State Street and then you go up 39th and you come down here to Creek Hill Drive, there is a vacant lot of substantial size and there are 2 other parcels nearby, but this area's been developing out as multifamily. And the petitioner has on the plat essentially a side yard setback that we're going to show you here in a bit. Right now, this is an area that is zoned R5, so multifamily, townhouses, single family could even go in here, duplexes can go in this area. The surrounding area to the south is C3, so this is somewhat of a step down type of zoning. And then on the other side, you have our I-2 general industrial district zoning. And again, the land use, essentially, urban high-intensity land use is going to permit R5 to be here, community commercial, C3, C2, C6, C7, and then industrial can permit I1, I2, I3. So what you're seeing is pretty much an area where there are intense uses that are permitted within each of these categories. This plat has a 21-foot wide setback. Typically in this area, if you had a structure that was 3 stories high, the requirement would be 7.5 feet. If the structure is 2 stories high, then it would be 5 feet. The proposal by the petitioner is to build these, and recently he's decided to diminish the height from 3 stories to 2, according to his engineer, and place these on this parcel. And this is a representation. I know it's a little, this is what we have to work with, but this is the structure as it appears, 3 stories in height. And staff, in reviewing this, I did cite some precedent. We could not find, when I went and looked at 20 years of history, could not find any variances for side yards of this size that were rejected. There were some precedents in there, somewhat rural in nature, but one of them was more in an urban setting, and it was just south of Regency Apartments. For a variance for a side yard to reduce it, I believe, from 27 to 20, or 50 to 23 feet. But in this instance, the other types of setbacks that were asked for are rather moderate, 5 feet maybe for a side yard, 10 feet for a combined side yard. So I looked at the precedent that was going to match or be close by to what this is. And that's why we make a recommendation for approval of the variance with the conditions that are listed here, and I would ask, are there any questions?
The variance is for what I would call the eastern border, western border of this property
Yes.
only? Okay.
And what was it if they go to 2 stories tall?
It
What
would
did
be
we-
5. You
5.
would, what you're supposed to do is when we get above 2 stories, there's a provision in the zoning ordinance to increase equidistantly the side yard setback. So you take the 5 feet and you assign 2.5 to one side and 2.5 to the other.
Mr. Chairman, can I just add some
Yeah,
a few
please.
thoughts as Greg presented? I just think it's important to point out that we have a platting issue here that we're looking at, also a zoning issue. So the plat, which is a legal document, you're an attorney, but which is a legal document that describes the property, and conditions on the plat become law. And this plat has this 20-foot setback on the side yard, which is beyond our code.
Okay.
So that's a slight nuance. And so the variance is kind of to get relief from that plat, if you will. If they were just, if this were not platted as such, that setback, then it would be a 15-foot minimum, a 5-foot minimum, 15 total. So you could do 10 on one, 5 on the other. If I'm not mistaken, Greg, is that correct?
Yeah, you're looking at, I mean.
On the R5?
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm reading the R5 code in front of me, and then we have this plat that's been approved. Now, I think it's reasonable to think, well, why was the plat approved in such a form? Many of you have more history with this city than I do. I don't have a lot of history on that.
I have to go back to the 5 now. So is that 2.5 and 2.5?
No, 5 would be the
It's
minimum.
5,
5 would be
okay.
minimum. You'd have to have 10 on the other side if you were that way.
Right.
And this project is being built solely on Lot 1?
Yes.
Who owns Lot 2? Same owner?
I think they do.
Okay. Because there would be a
That one
side
up.
yard
I think that
setback
one's
on
already
that side.
I think that one's already been subdivided, and there are other owners now, yeah.
Yeah, I can look up the ownership on Beacon here.
Well, that's
Greg,
okay.
can you pop up what the proposed plan is, like
Slide 6. there.
slide 6? Thank you.
Like townhomes.
I mean,
This is like really similar to what's going in at the bottom of Devil's Glen.
Yeah.
Okay.
You know where Glenbrook Circle South is, I think? No, that wouldn't be similar to them. It'd be more like the bottom of Devil's Glen, yeah.
Yeah.
More like the bottom of Devil's Glen. 1,200 Devil's Glen would be close.
Mm-hmm.
Let me see that.
Any other questions for staff? Trying to figure this out.
Yeah, I had to go to this one because it's.
Greg, do you have any history on
do
that,
this.
that plat for that, why it was at 20 foot? Did you discover that?
The only thing I think that could potentially have been an issue was that this may have been, somebody may have thought that these surrounding buildings here, given their height, might be built here. And based on that, the stories may require a greater distance here of separation for what may go in here. That's the only thing I could find. I didn't see any other reasoning.
You got to hit the magic button underneath the table.
On the 2 lots or just on the one?
At that time, before, this was platted in 2020, there was another lot. This is the 3rd edition, so this is, I believe, was all one lot with
Okay.
the other lot to the east.
Okay,
If Beacon is up to date, the Scott County website, there are separate ownership between the adjacent lots.
Right.
okay.
Yeah, I did look that up. One more time, just for clarification, we're talking just on the west side?
Yes.
Okay.
Do you know what the setback on the east side has? It's really hard to read.
I can't see that.
I can't either. It's gotta be on there, but
10?
it's right there.
Can you provide that? Yeah, thanks,
That
Greg.
helps.
Oh, that's,
7.5, looks like, isn't it? Building setback on that side, 7.5, it looks like.
Yeah. And again, it's not platted with the larger 20-foot.
Right.
Plat notice
There's
is
no
what-
setback at all in the
Yeah,
plat.
so it just falls to the zoning code.
Right.
So when this was originally approved, there was 21 feet right there.
Yep.
And that was an error.
We don't know
Most
that it's an
likely.
error.
You
We know
don't
that it was
know.
platted that way.
Okay.
And approved, by a licensed surveyor and approved by a city council.
Right,
In Greg's research, I think he's telling you that it's not obvious to him why. We read through minutes, we've looked at files.
right.
So was there a different plan in place that has been forgotten about? Greg, if you have any more to add to that?
It would not have been required at that time to be 21 feet?
Doubt it.
The only way that would have been required if there was a height requirement
Oh,
for
yeah.
the buildings going in and at the site plan level.
Right.
That would kick in regardless of whatever the plat would show. So that height, I don't know what height of building was anticipated. The original owner and developer of this area had intended that these buildings be like the ones you see that are here that have been here longer. It was not intended that they were going to build townhouses.
Yeah, that's true.
Any other questions for staff? For the board? Anyone wishing to speak in favor of the application? Appreciate it. Yes, sir. Go to the back of the room there.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Board. My name is Jeff Streitz, and I'm here on behalf of Axiom Consultants and on behalf of the developer. And I think staff covered it pretty well. I would maybe reiterate a couple of things, and that is, this is a high-intensity land use area. The current zoning is R5. The developer isn't asking for any special treatment, no change in zoning, no variance to that underlying zone. And I'd like to say it's very unusual for a setback to be specified that way on a plat. Setbacks are clearly defined in the zoning code, and that's what we always rely on for the setback information. It's the go-to document for setbacks. there must have, and I think staff maybe speculated too, that there must have been a different use in mind for this property. Well, the current proposal is consistent with the surroundings, it's consistent with the zoning, and to the surrounding properties, and indeed throughout town, anywhere where somebody is going into an R5 zone, developers will be held to those setbacks in the zoning code. So, you know, we think it really amounts to unusual treatment under the code for the current property and the current development. So we'd urge you to consider just going with the zoning code. And I think that's about all.
Thank you. Anyone else wish to speak in favor of the application? I didn't,
I think we misunderstood.
yeah. Are you in favor of the application or opposed?
I'm neither favor or against it,
Okay,
but I have questions.
please state your
And
name.
there is no category for that. So you have to get up sometime.
Do me a
but,
favor and state your name and then. go
My
ahead.
name is Ron Libby, 4024 Creek Hill.
Okay,
I'm probably here way too late. This thing has probably been already approved, the building and and those types of questions. This is just a setback question. But after buying a condo in the building that I'm in, there's like, just in the ones on the circle there, we come up about 64 condos. And out of 64 is about 128 cars. And then you've got the duplex right next to it, and then another building with apartments in it there. So then you can increase the amount of cars from that. And then you've got condos or apartment buildings down along the edge coming out onto State Street, which more than sets the amount of cars coming in and out. And if it was a thoroughfare, it might not be so bad. But this is a one entrance in, one entrance out situation. I know I'm probably too late because it's probably been already, but I just purchased the thing. I've been on a city council for like 12 years and a mayor once in another town. And that would have been a big, huge question from traffic situation is you've got an awful lot of traffic coming in and out of there. And then you've got parking not allowed just on one side of the street and then not allowed on another side of the street. But in between there, you've got cars parking all over the place, commercial vehicles with trailers parked in there. Sometimes it's very hard to get through there in nice weather. But I came in and bought my thing just when winter was starting to halfway through, and that made it even more difficult. I just wondered, were any of these things discussed back when this land use of these new townhouses was putting in? Because wow, I mean, you're increasing the traffic load tenfold in that place. When's it gonna stop? Because you've got land on the other side too, next to Duck Creek, that people could probably build something in there too. How much traffic can this street hold? You get one situation in there like we had just a while back with a street being repaired where they had to tear up part of the street for some kind of a water problem, and that created kind of a havoc situation just for them. Having been on the city council and mayor before, I'm just kind of flabbergasted how this all came about. That's the only question I've got as far as the setback. Kind of like the cart before the horse here, I know I am, but it just seems kind of funny to me that this was approved in the first place. So,
Quick question, sir. I think you said something about 64 cars at the beginning of your statement. I didn't know where that came from.
you've got two people living in a condo. You got one car in an underground garage and another space on the
18
outside.
townhomes.
So it's 2 cars per condo.
Oh, you're talking, I was just talking about this development.
No.
I thought you meant additional cars coming in because of this development.
Right here.
I don't know how many here you've got, how many
18 units, I
townhouses
think.
you
Each
got
have
here.
like 18 in them or something like that.
However many
They're pretty
townhouses
high
you got
density.
there, you probably multiply that by 2 cars.
But that doesn't have anything to do with this property. Okay, that's where I was confused.
Yeah.
Looks to
We
me
got
like
it.
there's 18 units, so you're talking,
If you get out there, you've seen that, it's a dead end. You drive in off the State Street, you go back in, you turn right around, you come back out. You have one problem in the middle there, and you've got everybody trapped.
Yep.
There's no other way out unless you want us right across somebody's yards. I mean, it just seems, I don't know.
well,
Is that, I mean, is that something,
So I think,
doesn't do much.
I
Mr.
mean-
Chairman, if I may.
I'm sorry.
Answer the question, I think there's, if you'd like me to respond, I could.
Well, that's fine if you want to
Yeah,
respond, all
um,
right.
I think the gentleman spoke eloquently and provided some good, thoughtful insight. In Bettendorf, we have chosen to bring special use and variances before the project gets built so that they don't go all the way through the planning phase and spend a bunch of money on engineering and then find out they can't have the project they want. So that's why it's here now. So to put out there for sure, the site plan for the building, the construction plans for the buildings have not been approved and are not before this body. They would not proceed as presented unless this variance was allowed. So that's just to answer that question. I think there are site plan concerns that we have. This body doesn't review site plans. Those would come from another body, the Planning and Zoning Commission, and ultimately the City Council. So staff is not doing a site plan review for you today. Some of the things that were brought up would definitely be part of a site plan review, and fire access, EMS access is one of them. I will tell you, older subdivisions across Bettendorf, the state of Iowa, suffer from single points of egress. And we don't build subdivisions that way anymore, but the older ones are built that way. And you're right, if you park a bus across the street and you got a single point of access and there's a heart attack on the other side of the bus, that's a problem. Again, site plan problem, got to be addressed at the site plan phase. New subdivisions, we don't build them, we build them to a different standard. Old subdivisions, we're kind of stuck with what we got there. So that's a little bit of a sidebar conversation, but I think worthwhile in having that we have people here who are obviously concerned and just kind of explaining that process. You know, as a staff person, I still think about this unique plating situation and did we do full discovery on that and really answer the questions that perhaps you want as board members to understand why it was platted that way. I know Greg did a good job, he did a thorough job, but you know, we have 10 days basically to prepare these reports. And to do historical research in 10 days with all the other work we do, you know, there could be chance to pause and take another look, try to understand that, why that was platted as such. I'm not saying we'll be able to find anything new. We may not. But there's a lot of people who work for the city for a long time that may have some knowledge. So I'll leave it at that.
Thank you. That's a good point that everybody needs to remember, unfortunately, that this is just the first step in the process itself. I don't know what these final buildings are gonna look like. Before I came in here today, they were 3 stories. Today, they're 2 stories, or now they're 2 stories. That's something that's gonna be reviewed by the city and different bodies than us. The only issue that's before us today is the variance for the side yard, which in the plat is 20 foot, in the statute is 7.5 foot. That's what we're presented
Could be
with.
as small as 5 by statute.
Yeah.
Okay, Ron Live again. It's, I'd like to apologize. I thought this was a done deal. And that the contractor just noticed that, hey, why is there set foots back this way? Can we get that straightened out? You know, but if there's another meeting to come back and talk about it, I'll gladly be at that. I just walked in, I'm here for the Creek Ridge thing to talk about it, and I just thought I'd bring it up during that discussion with them. I didn't know there would be another opportunity. So I will be here for that. You got a problem. You got a problem with that street. You know, is that like a 60-foot right-of-way, anybody know?
Probably not
On that street?
Probably less. I
Yeah.
mean, I'm just guessing, but I would say.
More likely total.
253. I don't know that it's 60 foot right away. I don't.
More likely,
I
there's no
can
more than
look and
20
find
foot
out.
for the road, and you have a car parked on the side, you know, that's gonna take up 2 or 3 feet there. You're really cutting down the space to get through there. And when you've got cars parked along here, and vehicles with trailers on them, and cars parked down here, you got a gauntlet to run. And so if you got a lot of cars going through there, especially in the wintertime, you're dodging left and right, and it's not a good situation to add any more cars to it.
And that's certainly a consideration that will be addressed when the site plan comes in and, right. Yeah. Okay, anyone else wish to speak opposed to this application? Opposed, yeah. I'm sorry, if there's somebody else in favor of it, please.
Go ahead, please. Hi, my name is Mary Jo Rutherford. I'm the president of the Creek Ridge Board of Directors
Okay,
Condo Association. And besides the traffic, my biggest concern is you have 18, I don't know if you call these condos or apartments. What are they? Is this rental
Considered to be
property?
condos.
it looks like they
And
would be
they are
condos.
not
Again, I
apartment
don't
in
know
terms of
that
the way that
because that
term's
hasn't
used,
been
they'd be
presented.
condos.
Yeah.
So they won't be rentals?
Don't know that.
That's a concern.
I understand, but that's
Yeah.
unfortunately
Right.
something we don't know at this stage of the game.
Okay. And one of the things that concerns me the most is, besides the traffic, is that we have a lot of people that come, I mean, that's an ingress and egress only. So what you do, you have everybody that lives in those apartments down there coming up there and flying through that cul-de-sac so they can get back out to State Street. And that is an additional thing to the traffic, I would say.
Again, that's something that'll have to be addressed at a later date. All we're talking about is the side yard setback,
Okay.
whether it should be 7.5 feet or it should be 20 feet.
Also, there's a gentleman here that would like to speak, and his property is in the most direct contact with this 7.5 feet. He has built a duplex, a very nice one, and he will be butted up to all of those, whatever they're going to be, condos, rentals, whatever. So that is our concern. We have an investment in our properties up there, and that's what we're concerned about.
I'm sure you are. I understand that.
This is Mr. Frank Marinardi.
Frank?
Hello, my name is Frank Marari, and we reside at 4001 Creek Hill Drive with my wife Constance Marari. And my concern is the variance at this, besides all the concern that the other two people have.
Okay.
Okay, this says here that they want to change it from 21 feet to 7.5 feet.
Correct.
If you can show me exactly if that's by my property or not.
I don't know where your property is. I think you're on the opposite side of the property completely.
Can I bring this up there and show you?
It's this one right here. Yeah, you can, we can. This property.
I think you're on lot 2, and we're talking about on the opposite side of lot 1.
Not a lot.
Would you like to show that on the screen?
This is the duplex here,
Yeah.
and that's the Creek Ridge.
This is, I'm not
This
doing
is the
that.
property line, and that's the duplex.
So it is on the wrong side.
Condo right there.
This is owned by Spears and has not been developed. No one Spears ain't gonna do it. They're not gonna think it's a freebie.
On your lot line.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
The overhead now.
This is.
Yeah, that's your property. Yes. Yeah, and the line we're talking about is on the opposite side next to that triangle, that big triangle piece? Yes.
No.
Yeah, no, the triangle piece.
It's on, it would be on.
Yeah, that piece right there, that
There you
line
go.
right there. Yep.
No,
No, that one, no, the
That
sideline
line.
there.
Right there.
They showed the hip.
Yep. Yeah, and I don't know, I think that's Ed Spear Construction that owns that property. And I don't know whether that's developable or not, but that's up to him. But he's not, I don't think anybody is objecting from the owner of that property.
We also have a lot of concern about traffic. Way too much traffic if it's a proposal of 18 units. That's one of the concerns we all have.
I think you all have that, and I understand that.
Yes, there's no other entrance besides the one from 39th Street. Yeah, we were told at one time that they were going to do like maybe 2 or 3 more like we have in their property.
Some duplexes like, you mean?
Yes, when we purchased the property, the only reason why we purchased it because we were told that they were going to have the similar properties on the other 2 lots or on the lot adjacent to our house. That's the only reason why we went there, and it was quite a real nice neighborhood. And that's one of the reasons why we did that. We were never told that it was going to be 18 units there and no other entrances besides the one on 39th Street.
I understand, I don't know that it's gonna be 18 units proposed. It could be something entirely different at this
We
point
would
in time.
hope that the committee would take in consideration maybe to review it.
I'm not sure that's terribly material, unfortunately, to the issue that's before us tonight, which is just that property line
Okay.
and reducing it from 20 to 7.5. And it would appear to me, the piece of property that's most affected by that is that little triangular piece that's owned by Ed Spears Construction, Inc. And I don't believe there's anybody here objecting from Ed Spears. So I understand your concern about traffic and some of the other concerns, but they're gonna be addressed by different bodies of the city of Bettendorf.
Okay, so there'll be
Okay.
another meeting.
Yes.
Okay, and that'll be the 17th?
No, I don't,
I don't know.
you tell me. Is there something coming up on the 17th?
Yeah, that's our, that would be the Planning and Zoning Commission meeting.
Okay.
What I think will happen is, based on tonight's decision, this project, if this decision were positive tonight, would carry forward to the next Planning and Zoning Commission meeting. If it were somehow postponed, delayed, or voted down, I doubt it would carry on to the next meeting for obvious reasons, because they would have to change their plan.
Okay, anybody else wish to address us?
Hi, my name's Joe Solis. This is my wife Cindy, and we just recently moved into Creek Hill.
Creek Hill.
We moved in last November, and so we're newbies. And with respect, if we had known about this, we may not have made the decision that we did. I understand that the issue that we're addressing today is the edge of that western property, which is right next to the apartments on Creek Hill, coming off of 39th on the way in. The traffic issue, yes, it's very choked. But one of the reasons we decided to move there, I'm recently retired, she's been retired for a while, we don't want to move again. And the incoming drive on Creek Hill, because there's parking on the north side of the street, and there's even been abandoned vehicles there, and for lack of a better description, I think it might be because of the high clientele turnover in the old apartments, the old 70s, 80s design apartments. Again, I don't have any data to support this, but just adding 2 and 2, you know, it looks like they're high turnover volume rental properties. We don't know what these new buildings are gonna be, whether they're gonna be townhouses, rental properties, condos. Again, we're also looking at the additional traffic, the parking, police and fire getting in and out of there. It's very choked as it is. So that's an issue for us. Now, with respect, y'all don't live there, and we do. And I don't know where, we just found out about this meeting, but 2-3 days ago. So I went, what are we talking about here? What's this? So not knowing where the project is in the planning stages, I came basically just to kind of find that out. Who's representing who? And this is kind of a yes/no question for the gentleman here who's got his back to me. Is the Axiom Properties, is it the same people that own the Chateau Knoll properties?
No, Axiom is an engineering firm, and this is not, Jim Work is the petitioner for this with
Okay,
Silverthorne Homes.
Okay, just curious. Okay, thank you. Thank you for your time.
Thank you. Anyone else would like to talk about the side yard issue? Oh, okay. Any questions further from the Board of Adjustment?
One last time. There's been so many numbers thrown out tonight. We want to go from 21 to 7.5, or is it 5 on the west side?
They're requesting a reduction, so it's published there, it is to 7.5 feet.
Okay, and then the east side?
The east side, depending on the height of the structure and how much total they have to have, may be reduced.
Okay.
But again, we need to have a definitive design that says that they are reducing the height of the structure to 2 stories.
Okay,
If the plat weren't written as it were,
gotcha.
they would have 15 total. Usually divided 10 and 5 is often how they do it, or 7.5 and a 7.5 is often how they do it. Because this plat is noted with a special distance of a setback on that one side, we can't just apply the zoning code normally to it.
Gotcha. Perfect.
But we could table it until there's more information about that.
Yeah, I think the Robert's rules would say the right term is postpone, I've been taught by our city attorney.
think we
If you
probably
wanted to do that.
Defer,
Yeah, defer, or postpone or something. If that's what you want to do, again, we do the best we can as staff to do this research. These are complex cases sometimes, and finding the history of why decisions were made as plats were approved the way they were is sometimes difficult, you know. I don't know, how old is that plat, Greg?
This
That one-
plat here is 2020.
2020,
But
it's
the
fairly new
original,
plat.
there are 2 other iterations that are larger that go back. So this is sort of what was left over once the other buildings came up.
The problem is you have a certain chicken and egg situation. In other words, what they design will be affected by the setback. And if you don't know the setback, then the design's gonna be one way or another. So somebody has to act first. And the way we've been doing it in this city recently is the Board of Adjustment acts first, and then other things all follow in after that, as opposed to going the reverse way, which is, we're all set to build, but you can't build it because we won't give you the variance.
But, yeah, again, just to put a exclamation point out, but for the plat, we wouldn't be here. The plat wasn't written the way.
That's right.
Uniquely.
Right,
We wouldn't even-
zoning is,
Yeah.
okay.
And normally speaking, a 20-foot setback would have a purpose, and it would be a purpose in connection with the adjoining property owner who isn't saying anything.
Yeah.
So, right.
Would it be appropriate to attach the reduction to 2 stories on the approval?
Yeah, you can make conditions. If you were to approve something, you can approve it conditionally. And I think that would be, you're kind of saying, hey, if it's not as tall, I'm okay with this setback. But if you get taller, I'm not okay with that setback. You know, obviously you don't want to be towered over. So that would be something you could condition your approval if you wanted to.
But per the code, it would only be, if it was 3 stories, it would require the 7.5 feet on each side, is that correct?
I think so. Yeah.
You have to have an additional 5 feet that
Right.
is spread equally for
Right.
each story above 2.
So if it went to 4 stories, it would need to be 10 feet on each
Yes.
side minimum, or
10 feet
distributed
total,
either
5
way.
and 5, yeah,
Right.
be added.
Right,
This
exactly.
would work even with 3 stories?
Correct,
Because of 7.5?
correct.
Yep.
Gotcha.
What we don't know, I guess, is why it was platted this way. And we just don't have that information, and we've looked for it, and Greg's looked for it, and I could look every day and not find it. I don't know that, but we just don't have that clarity. The plat note doesn't say why, it just says the note.
Right.
Oh, it doesn't, I can't see anything on it. Okay, anything further? Anybody want to make a motion?
Well, while I'm sympathetic to all your concerns about traffic, I think those are valid concerns. It's just not the body to deal with those concerns, unfortunately. We're just dealing with the setback on the west property line. And I will move on case 23035 to approve the reduction from 21 feet to 7.5 feet setback.
Any more discussion? I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Spranger?
Yes.
Tansey?
Yes.
Tombergs?
Yes.
Vermillion?
Yes.
Okay. So that's approved. The next item is case 23034. It's lot 7, a Betplex first edition. It's a C3. It's a variance to allow parking in the required front yard submitted by Paul Boffelli. Boffelli, is that how he says it? Okay,
He's here.
he's right. Paul's right, I'm wrong. How's that? I apologize.
If it pleases the board, I'll present, Taylor is off for a family engagement. His father's retiring from Metrolink after many years of service, and he's actually a great guy. I've worked with him before I knew Taylor, actually. So I'm gonna do my best on this case, and so pardon me for not being totally up to speed. It's case 23034. It's lot 7, Betplex First Edition. Just trying to orient you in your mind's eye. If you're coming into the Betplex from the west, the original site with the ball diamonds, you can see at the top of your screen here, there's kind of a sliver property. You may not even recognize it as part of the Betplex. It's kind of a sliver property as you come in. That Friendship Path is actually city right away. It's an actual street, so it gets treated as a front yard. So it's a 2 front yard property, long and skinny, which always causes problems and ends up in front of you when we have these type of situations. But code actually addresses this. This is technically a variance, I guess, under code, but it specifically gives you the power in code to allow parking in the front yard. That's a enumerated power in code, so we're kind of exercising that. I guess it's a variance, but it's a power that you are plainly given. Paul Boffelli, build a suit, request to allow 4 feet encroachment into the required front yard to allow parking. The site development plan proposes 2 medical offices. They'll kind of be like this, barbelled, north and south. 79 parking spaces. To achieve that and have room for the drive lanes, they need a little more room, 4 feet on this front side here. The site is designated urban medium intensity. The adjacent areas are UMI up here, and then you have urban low intensity, some housing here. A medical office, I think I said, was the use. It's zone C3. The use that's coming in that would be proposed is also a C3 allowed use. It just sits just south of the C7 complex here, which is the Betplex. So the red line shows you where the encroachment would occur. This is now turned, so north is to the left of the right of the page. So this is where the encroachment would occur here. The user across the street is Trillium on this lot here, and then I think this is still vacant, if I'm not mistaken. Trillium is another office complex user. You do have some required landscaping. They would still have to put the landscaping in. They just would do it on 15 feet instead of 20 feet. So it's not like they don't have to do the landscaping. They still have to do that, just tighter. And this, Taylor threw this slide together. It does note the specific allowance for front yard parking by this body when it kind of makes sense. And I think this is a common sense. We have a hardship of a narrowly designed lot because we required Friendship to be right away. So that made this long, skinny lot. 2 front yards, also a hardship. So probably why code created that power for you. As far as, character and fit, I really don't see any issues. Your encroachment is on the interior of this space. I would not be happy if the encroachment were here, but that's not the case. The encroachment would be in this portion, which is again pointing to other interior business type users. Medical offices aren't going to be bothering these other users by parking there. And the look aesthetically, as you pull into Friendship, you're still going to have landscaping. It's still going to be a nice looking area. I don't have a lot other to present. I hope I did an okay job pinch hitting there.
Excellent work.
Thanks.
Yes. Anybody have any questions? The board, anyone want to speak in favor of it?
Paul Boffelli, Build a Suit Incorporated. I just want to say our client is requesting the 2-building development there. And after we got done sizing both the buildings, we figured out we were a little bit underparked. So that's why we're requesting this variance. And so there are other options were to possibly downsize, but they have their dental building right sized at the 7,900 square foot. And then they've got a couple tenants looking at the north building and the size of that, then we'd be under parked by about 18 stalls. So we just looked at, we kind of had a double side setback there, and we just asked for the variance on the front. So appreciate it. Thank you.
Thank you. Okay. Any more questions from anybody on the board? If not, how about a motion to approve or deny?
I'll make the motion to approve 23-034 for the variance to allow the parking.
Second.
Okay, second motion, second roll call.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Spranger?
Yes.
Tansy?
Yes.
Tom Burks?
Yes.
Vermillion?
Yes.
Okay, the next items are to reverse the decision that we made earlier in connection with case 22066 northwest corner of 53rd Avenue and Middle Road. And corollary with that is to reverse the decision we made at the same location. One was a special use permit for a car wash, and the other was a special use permit for unlimited gas sales. I suspect when we take the motion, they ought to be two separate motions, but I think we can talk about them as a unit. I'm sure you'll remember that a few months ago, the southeast corner came in and asked for some special use, and we granted that, and we made it, in a sense, conditional on the withdrawal of the special use at the northwest corner. So that's what this is. The applicant agreed to that, and therefore this is a request actually coming from the applicant, not from the city or not from us. So that's all I know. If you got some more you want to add to that?
No, I think you summarized it well. Ryan Fick is the petitioner. He's provided us in writing that he wants to remove the previous authorized special use on the northwest corner so that he may proceed with the special use on the southwest corner. Southeast corner, gosh darn it.
So I'm not, is the motion to reverse or withdraw or?
I think it's reverse.
Reverse, okay. Then I'll entertain a motion
It says it here.
to reverse the special use permit for the car wash associated with a convenience store.
I'll make that motion to reverse case 22-066.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, how about roll call?
Gallagher?
Yes.
Spranger?
Yes.
Tansy?
Yes.
Tom Burks?
Yes.
Vermillion?
Yes.
And the second matter is for the special use permit, reverse the special use permit to allow unlimited gas sales associated with a convenience store.
I'll go again.
Okay, there's a motion and
Case 22-067, approve the reverse of the decision.
I'll second.
okay, so I have a motion and a second. Roll call.
Gallagher?
Yes.
Spranger?
Yes.
Tansy?
Yes.
Tom Burks?
Yes.
Vermillion?
Yes.
Okay. I think our business is done for the night. Thank you all for coming, and we stand adjourned.